If you were born before 1966, the next letter that arrives through your letterbox could contain information that affects your state pension, your future payments, or simply confirms important details the Department for Work and Pensions already holds about you. The problem is that many people assume every letter from the DWP is routine. Some are. Others deserve much closer attention. Before we begin, take a second to like this video and subscribe. We bring you the latest UK pension, retirement, banking, and personal finance updates explained in plain English so you can stay informed and avoid costly mistakes. Now here's something many people don't realize. Every year, thousands of pensioners contact the DWP because they believe a payment is wrong, a letter never arrived, or important information about their pension wasn't updated when it should have been. Sometimes the issue is small. Sometimes it's simply a change of address that was never reported. Other times, it's a misunderstanding about pension entitlement, national insurance records, or payment details. But almost every situation begins with the same question. I thought everything was already sorted. That's exactly why today's topic matters. If you were born before 1966, you're part of a generation that has lived through several major changes to the UK state pension system. Retirement ages have changed. The new state pension replaced the previous system. National insurance rules have evolved. Additional pension schemes have been phased out or merged. And over the years, millions of pension records have been updated, reviewed, or recalculated. For many people, nothing changes at all. Their payments continue exactly as expected. But for others, official correspondence can contain information that's worth checking carefully, rather than placing unopened on the kitchen table. Let's start with one simple question. Do you actually know which state pension system you're receiving? Many people confidently answer yes. Then they're surprised to discover there are important differences between the older basic state pension and the new state pension introduced in 2016. Those differences don't just affect payment amounts. They can also affect how entitlement is calculated, how national insurance contributions are taken into account, and whether additional pension components apply. That's why understanding your own pension record matters far more than relying on what happened to a neighbor, a friend, or even your spouse. No two pension records are guaranteed to be identical. Now imagine two people born only a few years apart. Both worked for decades, both paid national insurance, both retired around the same time. Yet one receives a different weekly amount than the other. Why? Because pension entitlement isn't based solely on age. It's influenced by contribution history, employment, contracting out arrangements, and the rules that applied throughout different stages of working life. This is where confusion often begins. Many retirees assume that once the first payment arrives, the calculation never needs another thought. But over recent years, reviews of historic pension records have identified cases where some pensioners were paid less than they were entitled to receive. In many situations, corrections were made after records were checked. For those affected, reviewing pension information became extremely important. That's one reason it's worth reading any official pension correspondence carefully, not because every letter contains bad news, quite the opposite. Sometimes it contains information that helps you confirm everything is correct. Sometimes it highlights something that deserves a second look. Either way, ignoring official paperwork rarely makes life easier. There's another reason many experts encourage retirees to keep their pension documents organized. Memory fades, paperwork accumulates, and years later trying to reconstruct what happened can become surprisingly difficult. Think about all the documents you've received over the past decade: annual pension increases, tax notices, bank statements, benefit information, national insurance correspondence. Most people file some of it, others leave it unopened until a rainy afternoon. Some eventually throw it away without reading it properly. Then, months or years later, they find themselves searching for exactly the document they no longer have. That's why financial advisors often recommend keeping one dedicated folder for anything connected to your state pension. It doesn't have to be complicated. One folder, one place, everything together. That simple habit can save hours of frustration later. Now let's talk about another issue that catches thousands of retirees every year: bank details. Changing banks has become increasingly common. People switch accounts to receive better interest rates, improved customer service, or online banking features. But every time banking information changes, it's essential to make sure organizations paying your income have the correct details. Most updates happen without difficulty. However, mistakes can happen. An old account may remain on file, letters may be sent to previous addresses, verification requests may be delayed if personal information no longer matches. These situations aren't everyday occurrences, but when they do happen, Resolving them quickly becomes much easier if your records are already organized. There's another misunderstanding that's surprisingly widespread. Many people believe that once they reach state pension age, nothing else ever changes. In reality, pension payments are reviewed annually. Rates can increase, tax codes can change. Eligibility for certain additional benefits may also change depending on personal circumstances. That doesn't necessarily mean you'll receive more money, nor does it mean you'll receive less. It simply means retirement isn't completely static. Life changes, financial rules evolve, government policies are updated, and staying informed becomes just as important during retirement as it was during working life. Now, here's something else worth thinking about. Scammers know exactly when official organizations are communicating with large numbers of people. Whenever genuine government letters begin arriving across the country, fraudsters often attempt to exploit the situation. Some send convincing emails pretending to come from government departments. Others make telephone calls claiming urgent action is needed. The goal is almost always the same: to obtain bank details, personal information, or national insurance numbers. That's why it's important to remember one simple principle. If something feels rushed, unexpected, or asks for sensitive information immediately, take a step back before responding. Verify the contact using official government channels. Never rely solely on information contained within an unexpected email, text message, or phone call. A few extra minutes of caution today could prevent far greater problems tomorrow. Because while official pension communications exist to keep your records accurate, scammers rely on confusion to achieve exactly the opposite. One of the most valuable habits any retiree can develop is checking their pension information before a problem arises rather than after one has already appeared. It sounds obvious, but many people only begin searching through paperwork after receiving an unexpected letter or noticing something unusual with a payment. By then, they're trying to remember conversations, locate old documents, and piece together events that may have happened years ago. A little preparation today can make that process much easier. If you receive correspondence about your state pension, don't assume it's simply another routine notification. Read it carefully. Check the dates. Compare any payment figures with what you're currently receiving. If something doesn't look right, don't ignore it simply because you aren't sure what it means. Questions are much easier to resolve while the information is still fresh. Another area that's often overlooked is your national insurance record. Many people worked for decades under different employers, changed careers, took time away from work to raise children, cared for family members, or spent periods self-employed. Each of those situations can affect how national insurance contributions were recorded. For most people, everything is perfectly accurate, but history has shown that errors can happen. That's one reason why checking your pension record from time to time is a sensible habit. It isn't about expecting problems. It's about making sure the information held about you reflects your actual working life. Now imagine discovering that an error made years ago has affected your pension calculation. Would you rather find out today or 10 years from now? Most people would probably choose today, and that's exactly why keeping informed matters. The same principle applies when your personal circumstances change. Perhaps you've moved home, changed your bank account, lost important paperwork during a house move, or experienced the loss of a husband or wife. Life events like these often mean updating information with different organizations. Sometimes people assume one government department automatically updates another. In reality, that's not always the case. Checking that your contact details remain current helps ensure important correspondence reaches the right place. Because even the most carefully prepared letter isn't much use if it's delivered to an address you left years ago. There's another point worth remembering. Not every issue involves money immediately. Some letters simply explain changes, confirm records, or ask you to review information already held on file. These may seem less urgent than a payment issue, but they're often designed to prevent larger problems developing later. That's why reading official correspondence carefully is almost always worthwhile. Let's also talk about expectations. Social media is full of stories claiming every pensioner is entitled to thousands of pounds in back payments. Some people genuinely have received arrears after historical reviews. Others haven't. Every case depends on individual circumstances, contribution history, pension type, employment record, and the information held by the authorities. That's why comparing your situation directly with someone else's rarely provides reliable answers. Your pension record is unique, your entitlement is calculated individually, and your circumstances deserve individual attention rather than assumptions based on headlines circulating online. Speaking of headlines, this brings us to another important point. Scammers often use fear to make people act quickly. Your pension is at risk. Immediate action required. Verify your bank details today. Messages like these are designed to create panic. Official organizations generally encourage people to contact them through established channels rather than responding immediately to unexpected emails or phone calls requesting sensitive information. Whenever you're uncertain, take a moment to verify the communication independently. That single step could protect both your money and your personal information. As retirement continues, financial organization becomes increasingly valuable. Keep important documents together. Store recent pension statements safely. Retain bank records for significant transactions. Write down important reference numbers. Simple habits like these may not seem exciting today, but they can become invaluable months or even years later. Think of them as an investment in peace of mind. Now, perhaps the biggest takeaway from today's discussion isn't about one specific letter or one particular payment. It's about staying engaged with your own financial affairs. Retirement doesn't mean switching off from your finances. If anything, it makes understanding them even more important. After all, your pension represents decades of hard work, years spent contributing to the system, years spent planning for later life. Protecting that income begins with staying informed. Fortunately, doing so doesn't require specialist knowledge. You don't need to become a financial expert. You don't need to understand every piece of pension legislation ever passed. You simply need to develop a few sensible habits. Read official correspondence, keep your records organized, update important information when circumstances change, check your pension details occasionally, and never hesitate to ask questions if something doesn't make sense. Most problems become much easier to solve when they're identified early. Finally, remember this. Your state pension is one of the most important sources of income you'll ever receive. Treat the paperwork connected to it with the same care you would give to your passport, your will, or your property documents, because those papers don't just represent administration. They represent your future financial security. If today's discussion has encouraged you to check your own records, organize your paperwork, or simply pay closer attention to official pension correspondence, then it's already been time well spent. The more informed you are today, the more confident you'll feel tomorrow. And in a world where financial rules, government policies, and retirement guidance continue to evolve, staying informed remains one of the smartest financial decisions any pensioner can make. If you found this video helpful, don't keep the information to yourself. Share it with a friend, neighbor, or family member who is receiving a state pension or approaching retirement. A simple conversation today could help someone avoid unnecessary confusion tomorrow. And if you'd like more straightforward updates on UK pensions, retirement planning, savings, banking, and personal finance, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest videos. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.